It's after 11 p.m. The kids are not sleeping well, but still trying to make this YouTube channel work, so let's record. Hi, and thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Furk, aka Phil, and I hope you had a great start into the new year. Today I want to share with you 8 things I didn't expect or know regarding film photography, so let's start. And don't worry, Nikon ZF and Leica Q3 videos are also planned for the new year. Let's talk about gear a little bit. First thing is regarding the price of film cameras, and a lot of people say, and that's what I also share, is entering film photography can be relatively cheap because you can get a camera for a few bucks, like point and shoots, or like something like the Canon AE1, which is an SLR camera, can be between 50 or 100 bucks. But depending on the model of the film camera, you can go from a few bucks, like this automatic plastic fantastic camera. This one I paid about 30 euros. Can creep up until over 2000 euros for used Leica M6, or if you want to buy new analog cameras, which is I think Leica are among the few, you pay for a new Leica M6 or MA or MP over 5000. But let's put Leica aside, because there are also other analog cameras which are quite pricey. For example, the Contax T2, because some celebrities gave that camera some spotlight, and therefore the used market is going crazy regarding that camera. I think the Contax T2 is about $100 or something like that on eBay. And if you look into some more popular SLRs, for example, like the Nikon FN, FE, or general the F line, there you pay between $200 up to $500. Depending on the model and the conditions. For example, the Nikon FM2, which I borrowed for one video, was around 500 euros. So here you can also see that the price gap between different models varies a lot. Just something to be aware of, I think, because film cameras can be expensive, and in case of Leica also very expensive. Second point I want to make is regarding the reliability regarding film cameras, because all of these cameras are very old at this point. We are now in 2024, and most of these cameras are 20 or 30 or even 40 years old, and the age is starting to show, especially on the electronic ones, but also on all the mechanical parts of these cameras. Just as an example, this Canon AE1 I got from my father. He bought it in the 80s, and I put a few rolls of film last year through this camera and it was working fine. But at some point there was a defect on this camera, because when I pulled this lever to reload the film, it was firing automatically. And therefore I had to get this camera to a camera store to get it fixed. Regarding these autofocus cameras or also point and shoots, you have to be aware regarding the electronics in these cameras, because these parts can break on you and then it can be a pain to get these things fixed. Also, something to be aware of is regarding possible defects which you should be aware of. For example, if you buy gear on eBay, because something like the shutter speed, it can be that the timing is not correctly anymore, because the mechanical parts are not working correctly. For example, my Leica M6, which I also bought used and on eBay, the shutter speeds it was starting about half a second or 1 second. The timing was not correct, so exposing for 1 second it was exposing for 2 seconds, and so on. So basically that camera also needed some repair and maintenance, and this is just something again to be aware of if you buy something used. Most people don't know how to check the shutter speed, for example, and people just judge the camera by its appearance and put that on eBay. Again, just something to be aware of. The third point I want to make is regarding maintenance, and that I also just briefly touched on. For example, my Leica M6, as I mentioned, the shutter speed was not correctly. Beside that, also the old battery was leaking, so that needed also some cleaning. And in general, this Leica M6 needed some maintenance after I bought it. And for Leica, finding parts and a camera store which can repair this kind of cameras relatively easy, because Leica M6s are popular, especially in these days, and Leica is also producing these parts, also again because they relaunched the M6. So getting these cameras from Leica repaired is just a question of money. So that's also something I want to make aware of, is the price can be quite high to get these film cameras repaired or maintained. I paid about 400 or 500 euros to get this M6 up and running again. That price is relatively low because that was a third-party camera store, so to say, which made the repair for me. I think if you send in your Leica M6 to Wetzlar in Germany, it costs you between 700 and 900 euros. I'm not sure, but I think it's about that range. Unfortunately, the waiting list is also quite high, so if you want to get your camera maintained by Leica, I think the waiting time can be up to between 6 and 8 months. So also something to be aware of. If you look at more affordable cameras, I already mentioned the electronics of point and shoots or something like this Canon. I think in general it's quite difficult to find someone to get these repaired. Also depending on where you live. If you live in a city, I think it's more easy to find some store or person to get this fixed. If you're living on the countryside, I think that's getting more difficult. And also here the cost is quite a question mark, how much you will pay for that, but in general I guess it would be more than you paid for the camera. Just as an example again, that this AE1, the camera runs with a 50mm lens around 100 euros or dollars on eBay. And the problem I had with pulling this lever and the camera firing directly again, to get that fixed, it cost me about 80 euros. So almost the same price as a new Canon AE1 with the lens. So in Germany you say that's wirtschaftlicher Totalschaden, because the repair cost doesn't justify the repair, so to say. But since this specific AE1 is the one from my father, who he used to shoot pictures of my brother and me, I wanted to get this repaired. But yeah, the repair was expensive if you compare it with the market price, how much this camera actually is worth right now. Now let's talk a little bit about film stock. And the first point I want to make is, since I'm relatively new in film photography, I was a little bit surprised that developing black and white and color can be different regarding time and price. Usually the prices I found in Germany is that the black and white development costs a few bucks more compared to color development. Also depending on the lab you're sending it to, black and white also takes a little more time, but that's also highly dependent on the lab you are sending it in. Yeah, just a fact I found quite interesting. Sure, if you develop your film yourself at home, that point doesn't count, but I have 2 kids. I don't develop film in my own apartment with all the fluids and chemicals. Next point is regarding film stock prices, and not regarding how much film stock cost in general and the uprising prices, but more regarding looking out for sales or some special offers, because I was quite surprised that still today something like drugstores, also here in Germany, I can find a triple pack of Kodak Gold for about 20 euros, and this cost, breaking down, it's about $6 a roll. So for that price it's for me quite okay to shoot film, although it's still expensive, of course. Something like HP 400, which I also like to shoot, I found sometimes on eBay some special offers which makes a roll cost about $8 to $9. Normally in Germany it runs between 10 and 50 euros. If you find some special offer, just stock up on that. On average you pay a little bit less compared to buying film when you need it. The next point is regarding film development, regarding the looks, and that's also something I wasn't aware about. I learned about that through a YouTube video from Teo Crawford. I will link it up in the description. And basically he has a lot of years of film development of himself, doing it at home. And he says that depending on how you develop your film, for example Kodak Gold, how he developed Kodak Gold at home can make the picture look different compared to a lab developing Kodak Gold. And if I think about that, that's quite logical. Although I don't know the process of film development, I guess how, depending on what kind of fluid you use, how long you put the film in, there are a lot of variables which can influence your picture, and therefore that fact I found it interesting that it can impact your image, since I'm before used to just shooting raw and putting it through Lightroom to get a look which I just like. The next point is also because I'm coming from the digital world of shooting, and in the film analog world is a completely different game, and that's regarding the ISO. Shooting film is highly weather or light dependent, because basically when you choose your film stock, your ISO is baked in for 24 or 36 shots if you shoot a 35mm film, and then you are stuck with that one ISO value. The only thing you can now influence is the shutter speed and the aperture, and that fact regarding the ISO made me realize that I'm very used to shooting very high ISO on digital, because I shoot a lot of pictures of my family, of course, of my kids, and that's mostly indoors, especially now in winter. And yeah, just made me realize that I'm very used to shooting high ISO values over 3200 ISO or above. And the last point which I want to mention in this video is something that's also making sense, but I never thought about that, is that analog film photography doesn't provide metadata for your images. That just simply makes sense, especially when you use some older film cameras which are completely mechanical or partly mechanical. Of course there is no setting or no display behind to put in the time and date. I think the more latest high-end film cameras have some kind of options. If you scroll through YouTube and put this topic combined with the film photography, I can recommend the video of Cody Mitchel. He did an excellent job in his video how he put metadata in his analog film images. But yes, shooting film made me realize that when I get the film and scans developed, the date and time is not the date where I shot these images. Especially when I take pictures of my family, of the kids, I would like to note the date just to see how they grow up basically. And when I got my first film rolls, that simple fact of not having the date, yeah, made me wonder, but as I already mentioned, it's logical in that these cameras don't provide this kind of data. And again, that video of Cody Mitchel is very good. He shows his step-by-steps how he gets the metadata in his analog images, including the date. As I mentioned in my last video, going into 2024 I want to shoot film photography a little bit more because I like the experience simply. But after thinking about film photography, especially for this video, I also think that film photography, especially on social media, is currently romanticized because people are discovering film photography. It's a little bit also hyped by social media. And I think that most of the people or the videos are focusing just on the shooting experience. So basically getting an old film camera, putting some film, shooting your picture, you have tactile experience. And people also say that they enjoy the experience of slowing down. This I also agree, but I think that most people are just focusing on the shooting experience. In my opinion, there are two other stages of film photography. After the shooting experience with the gear and the film stock, you have the development part. As I already mentioned, the development part can also highly influence your image quality, depending on how you develop your film and also how you interpret your film to get it scanned. And the third stage is basically how you organize your analog images. Because after you get your film developed and scanned, you have the digital file and you have the physical film developed. And here you also need to find some system for yourself, how to organize all that stuff. Sure, you can just get a folder and put all your film slides in, but as I already mentioned, the digital organization is something that I was quite surprised that you have to put in so much work to get your film images somehow accurate, organized. And with digital, you don't have that kind of struggle. Comment below if you are shooting film photography in general or want to give it a try. And I'm quite curious regarding the 3 stages of shooting, developing or organizing. Which part do you like the most and which part do you like the less? And which part you don't like? I'm quite curious. Let's see what you will reply. If you're still here, thank you very much for watching. You are the one who deserves the like. If you want to support my small little channel, just check the affiliate links below in the description. And if you want to see more videos of my channel, just click on this video, which YouTube suggests to you. Now I made the recording before midnight and I hope the audio didn't get messed up again.